Hi, it's David with Rogers Gardens, and today we're going to do October gardening checklist. I'm going to be talking more what to do in October, what planting. October is an interesting month. It's more of what I call a transition month. So I'm going to go through the vegetables first, and then I'll talk about other flowers and herbs and things, but it's a really transition month. So sometimes we're not quite out of the heat and we're not quite into the cold, but we are starting to change. So as we go more into fall, we're going to start cooling down more. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about more about the winter vegetables. So I know some of you guys farther inland might go more into next month or end of this month, but this time of year, as we get cooler, I start looking at the winter vegetables. So like right now, I'm looking at doing like the broccoli. I love the broccoli. So broccoli, this is Waltham 29. It's more of a mid-season variety with a medium to large head. So I like the Waltham broccoli. And when you're planting broccoli and even cauliflower, put them about 15, 18 inches apart. I try to put them, I don't like to plant them really close, but one thing I will do though, that I'll tell you guys, with broccoli and cauliflower, they're heavy feeders, so if you grew tomatoes before them, put your compost in there, amend the soil, and use a fertilizer. I tend to use the down-to-earth fertilizers a lot, like the all-purpose, or one of my favorites. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. I love BioLive, so I use this on all the vegetable gardens because it has more mycorrhizae in it. So that's a good one. Moving on, cauliflower. So I have this rainbow mix. So this cauliflower, again, I'll put them about 15, 18 inches apart. This is a mixture right here. So it has the cheddar in there, the purple, the white. It's more of a mixture. So, and you do got to watch out a little bit for the caterpillars. If the caterpillars get bad on the broccoli and cauliflower, I'm usually using like an organic spray like BT or Spinosad or something like that. You know, and so that's those. Kale. We're starting to move into kale, so all your Italian kale, your red Russian kale, your blue dwarf kale, all the kales can be planted right now. And kale produces so much, and some of them can get taller, like the Italian kales, like lacinato, so tend to put it more into the back of the garden because they can get 3 to 4 feet on some of them. Now the dwarf blue kale, you can mix it in with your lettuce. It doesn't get that tall, you know, so it's more shorter. So the other one is spinach. Spinach is really good, so we're doing different types of spinach right now. You could do seeds, you could do, this is imperial green. The main thing with spinach is it likes a good amount of water, but it likes it to drain good, so that's really important. So drainage is really important for spinach. And lettuce is another one that I'm doing this month, and I do all the lettuces. I like a lot of the mixed lettuces, like this has leaf lettuces and romaine and royal oak leaf, and this has an heirloom romaine. So I do like to do the lettuces right now and space them about 6 to 8 inches apart and make sure it drains. But I always do all the lettuces right now. Lettuces, as we cool down, just make sure they get adequate water, and always with the lettuces. And then another one that I'm really doing a lot of is the onions. This is a little torpedo variety called Cream Brulee. It's a red torpedo onion. One thing that I do a lot that I want to show you guys, usually when you get these in like a bunch of them, if you want these onions to bulb up and get bigger, now they're not going to bulb up until spring, but you plant them right now, you separate them. Like, so sometimes I'll literally just pull them apart like this. I don't want to rip the roots up too much, but see, I'm like pulling them apart. And what I want to do is I want to plant these individually like this. Sometimes if I break the tops, I just pinch it off. But if I plant this more like single and about 6 inches apart, I'm going to get a bigger bulb. Now, if I leave them all crowded together, I'm going to get scallions. So that's one thing with onions. When you want to have the bigger bulbs, you actually will go through, and I'll take this one on the outside and just lightly pull it through. And sometimes I do like to pinch the tops though, because then they won't lose as much water, you know, because the roots got to catch up with the top. And if the top's too big, all that water is going to go up. So that's one thing that's important for onions is don't be afraid to separate them. Some people even wash them apart and stuff like that. So One thing though with onions, we do short day onions. So it's really important when you guys are buying onions and looking at onions, don't do the long day because we don't get enough sun or our length of sun going into spring. So onions, they'll just say SD or short day, like the Texas granules and all those, and the Texas super sweets and all those other ones. But short day onions, that's important. Leeks right now, I'm planting leeks. Leeks are really good right now, and there's a lot of different varieties. Another thing that's important for onions, garlic, and leeks, they have to have the sun. They have to have full sun. If you don't put them in full sun, they won't bulb up. Where lettuce and even broccoli and cauliflower will take a little shade. So that's important when you're doing the winter vegetables because the sun is going to change and sometimes the sun will start setting a little lower as we go into daylight savings. And so it's very important to watch where you're putting stuff, and because most of this stuff will handle shade, but onions, very important to do more sun on them so they bulb up. These are some of the vegetables I do from seeds. So this is the time where I'm doing a lot of root crops. So I'm doing like all the carrots. So these are Danivers 126. I'll do these. Little fingers, all the French carrots. I'm doing these. One thing with carrots, they're very slow to germinate. So when you plant them very shallow, even just like a 1/16 of an inch. And so I make a little area with my finger and then I sort of sprinkle them in and lightly work it in. So I'm still talking about root crops. So I talked with the carrots, and like I said with the carrots, remember guys, they're very slow to germinate and plant them very shallow. So keep them pretty well watered, and a lot of times with them, I might water them 2-3 times a week really good to keep them evenly moist. And so other root crops I'm looking at right now, I do the beets. I like the gold beets, like the touch-tone gold. I really like the Early Wonder. These are sort of my two favorites. I like the Early Wonder because you could juice it and it roasts good. And then the Goldstone, I just like the flavor, you know, so love those two. So definitely do those. Favorite radish, I love the French breakfast. You can do the other radishes, but they're going to be more spicy. The thing with radishes, they come up and they grow very fast. So these are one of the fastest vegetables. They'll take like 30-40 days. So put them in, water them really good, and watch them really take off. And these are good for the kids because they can really see them grow because they grow so fast. So, but there's like cherry bombs and Easter egg, but I like the French breakfast because it's more sweeter. So that's one of the other root crops. Turnips. I love turnips. Even though turnips, the plant can get really chewed up by the pill bugs. If the pill bugs are really bad, I use Sluggo Plus. So this is one that I use a lot if the pill bugs are really bad, because this does work against them. And so moving on with more seeds, I'm doing a lot of the arugula, cilantro, doing those from seed right now, you know, and I'll direct sow them in the garden. One thing that you can do, you can plant in trays or you can direct sow. When we're really starting to go more into this month, I direct sow everything in the garden, where I know a lot of people like to put stuff in trays or seed trays and all that. I don't. It goes right in the garden because it will grow faster and it will root out better too. So that's a trick right there. Lettuces. I love the lettuces. I like more, again, with the mixed lettuces, and these are from seed. This one, Chef's Choice, I like. Farmer's Market Blend, I like. But one of my favorite mixtures, I love the Gourmet Baby Greens. This is a favorite. I do this every year. I plant seeds. I do a ton of crops with this. So I love this. This is one of the better gourmet lettuces because it's a mixture of like red romaine, and you'll have green romaine and different types of lettuces in this mix. So it's a good mixture. So I like that one. I do the regular Paris Island. You know, that's just your regular romaine. That's a good one. And again, with lettuce, if you're doing like a cut and come again, like even with these two, I'll put it down and I'll work it in really good and I'll let it all come up really thick. I don't thin out as much. I know a lot of people talk about thinning and thinning out. The most important thing when you're growing vegetables, whether all this stuff, you have depth. The stuff really gets down to roots, so that's important. But I do broadcast these and put them pretty close, because with these I can cut it back and let it come up, and cut it back and come up. Now some of the other lettuces like the Butter Crunch and the Boston Bib and all those lettuces, they're a one-shot deal. So once you cut those, you're not going to get any more. So think about that if you have a small garden and you have limited space. Look at some of the romaines and the leaf lettuces where you'll keep cutting them over a longer period, and you'll get more use out of them when you're using them for fresh eating or in recipes. I do like some of the other, like the red sales is a really good red leaf lettuce, so I do those a lot. Another trick that people don't realize that you can do, if you guys like cilantro and the arugulas, you can mix it. You can mix it into your lettuce. You know, you could take a little bit of like this Astro arugula and mix it into the lettuce. So if you like a spicier mix, you could put kale in there and mix it. So there's different things. You don't have to just do everything separate. I used to take spinach. I like Bloomsdale's a good one. There's Olympia. There's so many, but keep cutting it too. Like spinach does better actually when you direct sow it in the ground in seeds, because it has a little taproot. So, but you could mix it into your lettuces or do it however you want. But now's the time, start planting it. Don't be afraid to do the seeds either, but do them shallow and really water them good. That's very important for seeds. If you can't find broccoli raw, sometimes the plants can be harder to find. Just do the seeds. Just sprinkle them right where you're going to grow them. So the broccoli rab or the rapini eyes, if you can't find them, just do the seeds, direct sow them. This is a good one, Bravado, really good variety of head broccoli. This usually is a main crop, so this one can be a little later and the heads are a little bit bigger. So if you plant this from seed right now, you probably won't harvest until like more into like Christmas time. Kales, I can do all the kales from seeds. So this is red Russian kale. I do all the kales. I could do seed, I could do plant, whatever. I like the lacinato. I like all the Italian kales, the red Russian kale I do like. The most important thing with kale is don't let it get really tough. I keep cutting it, you know, like even when it starts coming up and it's maybe a foot tall, I start cutting it. I don't wait for it to get 3 to 4 feet tall and the leaves get really tough. So I harvest a lot, so I have tender new shoots, and that's better for cooking, sauteing, and all that stuff. So with the kales, definitely right now. Onions, again, I could do seeds of the Texas granule. This is a short day onion. They're gonna be really slow, but once they start growing, they'll take off. Again, I can direct sow them right in the garden. Onions, I will sort of keep separated a little bit so that they bulb up better and they're bigger. So Texas granule, good short day onion. This is a cool one you don't see that much, is celery root, celeriac. We got these in from Renee's Seeds, and so I like this. And what you do with this is you cut off the hard part and you can actually grate the root, and it is celery root, so celeriac. That's a good one. I don't see that one that much. The chard. You can do plants or seeds, but Bright Lights is my favorite variety of chard. And chard's another one, don't let them get really tall, keep cutting them. Once they start coming up, you light cut them, and they'll come right back because they have a crown. But I love the chard. The chard is really good. Some other plants that I really only do seeds are the bok choys. These, I only have like the little dwarf type of bok choys, like the toy choy and the choco. These are really good. There's pak choy too. These, all of like Asian vegetables like the Napa cabbage and the bok choy and the pak choy, they do better direct sowing in the garden. They don't do good transplanting as much in containers, and they grow so quick. This toy choy, so this is 30 to 35 days. Sometimes it takes a little longer. I've had them in 40, but they do grow really fast. So watch the insects a little bit on them, but yeah, right now do them from seed, direct sow them. Another thing that I do as we go more into October and even into the next month is I love the peas. So if you have a little trellis, or if you want a lot of sun with the peas, so these are your sugar snaps and your snow peas. So this is one of my favorite snow pea. It's called Oregon 2. I love this one. So they'll grow all the way to a trellis, and you do about a 4-foot trellis. They'll start flowering as we go more into later winter. So it takes them a little longer, but I love the peas. So I like the snow pea. That's your Oregon 2 snow pea. And then I really like the sugar pods. And the sugar pods are another really good pea. You could shell them, but the one thing with these two, the reason why they're my favorites is I can eat the whole pod. there are no fibers in here. It's stringless, and so I can eat the whole pod. So fresh eating, and I'll eat them right in the garden. So I love the sugar. This is super sugar snap. And then this is Oregon too. Love these two varieties. But one thing that's important too is when you direct sow them, I don't soak the seeds. I just put the seeds about an inch deep and I water them really good and I put them right near a trellis. Sometimes I use my old tomato cages or wherever. But the most important thing is that you get a lot of sun. It's very important with these. They won't even grow, they won't even flower and produce unless they get a lot of sun. So that's really important too with those. And so, but yeah, that pretty much ties up a lot of the veggies for this month. Now we're going to talk about herbs. What herbs I'm planting in October. Still do a little bit of basil, but we're on the way out with basil. So by the end of this month, it's going to be finished. But I still like to do a little bit of sweet basil, just because sweet basil is my favorite herb because I love to put it on pizzas. So, so one of them. But the other herbs, as we start to transition out of more of the summer herbs, I'm looking at a lot of the perennial herbs. So that's really important. So I'm doing all the oreganos, like this is Italian oregano. I'm doing Greek, I'm doing all of them. Oreganos, just make sure they get enough water. They love water. So I'm doing like the Italian parsley. These I cut back a lot because I use a lot of parsley. So doing parsley, doing the oregano. I love the chamomile. The chamomile, this is a perennial. Now it's going to slow down, but it's good to plant these too in the fall because they'll get a good root establishment for next year. All the thyme also. English thyme is my favorite. This is some of your more aromatic varieties of thyme, but there's so many different varieties. But one thing you got to watch out with thyme is some are more ornamental and some are more culinary. So the culinary types are always going to be your English thyme, your French thyme. There's different varieties of variegated lemon and lime, and all those are culinary. You'll always find though too that's interesting, if they're taller and bushy, they're culinary. If they're really low, like a ground cover, they're ornamental. So like the ornamental ones, elfin and coconut and woolly, those you really can't cook with. So that's the one thing with the thyme. Your culinary varieties are going to be more bushy. If they get really tall and leggy, I'll trim them, and a lot of times I'll just take the cuttings and put them on like a paper plate and let them dry out and use them dry fresh, you know. So that's with that. You could still do all your lemon balm. This is a really little plant that I brought up. So lemon balm is good, but you just got to watch out. I'll plant lemon balm like I do mint. Lemon balm sort of takes over, so I do tend to put it in containers. So sometimes I'll get like a little 10 or 12 inch container, put potting soil in there, and just do one plant because lemon balm has a tendency to take over. And then you have your spearmints. Again, I love spearmint. I love all the mints. We get so many mint in. We get chocolate mint. It's going to start slowing down a little bit, but they'll root good this time of year. So that's one thing too that people don't realize when you start going more into fall and even the end of this month, and as we get colder at night, plants really like the coolness at night, but they really form better roots. Like this one, this is why it's better not to put mint in the ground. Like look at these runners. See those roots? They're going to root at every node. So it's better with mint, just like the lemon balm. Get a little container, terracotta pot with good potting soil. A lot of times I'll just use the Malibu potting soil and keep it watered, keep it on your patio. Your sages right now, this is my favorite cooking sage. It's called Garden Gray. I do like a lot of the narrow leaf sages for cooking, but you have tricolor and golden sage and purple sage and all of them. But I like some of the garden gray and some of the narrow leaves because this is what they use to make like roast and brown butter. But again, sage is pretty strong. So a lot of times I'll pick off the sides and I'll literally just let them dry on a paper plate, or you don't even have to dehydrate them, but then you could use that. But using sage is fresh, they're really strong. So what I do is I'll break it up and I'll let it dry out on a paper plate. Garlic chives, your onion chives, all that stuff's good. So, but think more perennials as we go more into fall, you know, because they're gonna go through the winter more than the annuals. A lot of the summer annual herbs like the basil and the dill and some of the other stuff, they're not gonna last through the winter. As we get colder at night and wetter at night, they don't like the dampness and the cold. What flowers I do in October? Some flowers like it cooler. I sort of split it into two sections in a way. And see, these are just annuals. But so with the annual flowers, I'll still do some of the summer stuff. And then as we really cool down, because a lot of the annual flowers, different than the vegetables, the annual flowers really like it a lot colder, a lot cooler. So sometimes I'll wait more into the end of the month for the pansies, the snapdragons, the violas, all of them. I'll wait more into the end of the month or almost November, but I'm still doing like the zinnias, like the Profusion Fire zinnias, still doing these, doing the Paludosum daisies. I love portulaca. This is like sundial mix. Portulaca is always one of my favorite plants because it's such a hardy plant. I'm doing the lobelias, all the marigolds I'm still doing. Another plant that I really love to put in rose gardens is the Armeria, the sea thrift. They get little stalks that have little pink or white flowers, but I love the Armerias because they're such good bloomers. They're actually a perennial, you know. A lot of people times they get grouped in with an annual, but they're a perennial. So that's what just a few of them that we can still plant right now because we're gonna be a little hotter, but mainly with the annual flowers, sometimes I'll push those summer flowers until we really cool down and then I'll put my winter stuff in. So, and then shifting gears, going into some of the perennials. I love planting perennials right now, and a lot of people don't realize as we cool down at night, as we get cooler, perennials love to establish this time of year. So if like any of the perennials, so like the white sage, I can plant right now. Loves when it cools down, it's gonna root good. And then some of these, this is a California native, and as we go more into fall, if we get some rainstorms, then they're really gonna establish good because they're not so much putting a lot of growth. And this is a main thing that's different from spring and summer and fall and winter. Plants produce more roots. Because it cools down, they shift gears where they don't produce much growth. But then they'll get established next year when it warms up and you come out in spring and summer, they're gonna really grow fast because they have a little bit of a head start with good root systems. So white sage I do right now. I love the echinaceas, love the echinaceas. These are some of the best pollinator plants because the bees will go after them, the butterflies will go after them. Not as much of a hummingbird, but definitely a pollinator. Really a hardy perennial. Now they go pretty dormant, so it's good to mark them or watch where you plant them because they really go into a hard dormancy, and a lot of people think that they're gone for the season, but no, they just go into a hard dormancy. So agastaches, I love agastaches. These are a good, they tend to bloom profusely and then they don't, and they bloom again, they don't. So it's good once in a while to just trim these back, but the little, they call them hummingbird mint. And oh, the hummingbirds love these because they produce a lot of nectar in their flowers. So love the agastaches. Another good one that I like, Kufia, is the firecracker plant. This is Vermillionaire, and Vermillionaire, this is a proven winter selection, but oh, these are good because the hummingbirds, this variety doesn't get as tall, but you'll still get them about 3 feet or so, maybe 3 to 4 feet wide. But adequate water, put them in containers, put them in the ground, but the hummingbirds really like this plant. So remember, proven winter, Kufia, firecracker plant them because give them a little bit more room because they do get bigger. So these are going to go into the back of the garden or into the back of a perennial garden, not into the front. They get bigger. And Callilophus, another one of my favorites. This is another proven winter select right here. This is Superlophus or Sunglow, but Callilophus is a really hardy perennial that's native to parts of the Southwest. It's related to the primrose family, but it's not as invasive as the primrose. This won't root or seed everywhere. So this is a good one for yellow. They'll bloom all summer long, and in the wintertime when they go dormant, I just like cutting back, but love Callilophus as a perennial. Chocolate Cosmos, you know, we haven't had them for a while. I'll still plant them. Good little perennial. The Osteospermums, this is another free, proven winter select. Oh, look at the flowers on this. It's sort of a semi-double. These are so hardy. If you want these as a border, it's good to light trim them back. Don't let them get really tall. But oh, this one is Bright Lights Double Moon Glow. So really cool variety, more of like a double variety of Osteospermum, but really good. They don't bloom as much in summer, but they bloom heavy spring, March, April, and again September, October. So start planting them in right now. And my other perennials that I love Gara. Gara is one of my favorite. This is called Monarch Pink. Butterflies love Gara. Gara can get big. Prune it back in later into this month. Still plant a whole bunch of them. And then the Scabiosas. Love Scabiosas. They sometimes call this the pincushion flower. Great for the butterflies, great for the bees, so good pollinator. Doesn't really do that much. It's just a nice little clump that gets the little pincushion flowers off it, and they get about 8 to 10. There are some giant varieties that we get in spring, but right now I got the little small varieties, and this is Flutter Rose Pink, so rosy pink. I love yarrow. This is one of my other favorites. If I had a few favorites on these, it would be the Cuvia, Gara, and then the yarrow. Love the yarrow. This is a variety called Moonshine. Moonshines get taller. 2 to 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet wide, bright yellow flowers. Butterflies love them. Very good perennial for the garden, but another bigger perennial you'd put back into the garden. Okay, I like the salvias too, even though we're winding down a little bit on the salvias. This is a variety called Black and Bloom. These are some of the salvias that come from South America, and they get a little taller, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. So put these in the back of the garden. Sometimes if they look really rough as we go more into fall and winter, just light trim them back. I don't prune perennials hard though. When I'm pruning them, I might go back, cutting them back to 50%. But again, I don't prune perennials that hard. I really just, if it got 3 feet, I might go down to 2. Where I see people prune a lot of these perennials way too hard. So don't prune them that hard, because then they have a hard time coming back and they'll be really woody. So don't prune them that hard. I like all the pentstemons. This is a variety called Rock Candy Pink. Pentstemons are great. You have such a huge family though. Some are more natives, more drought tolerant. Some are going to be more water, but they're great for the hummingbirds. So love all the varieties of pentstemons for the pollinators, but mainly for the hummingbird. Russian sage. Love Russian sage. I know a lot of people, we're starting to see more of the dwarfs. I just like the regular standard because they get 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide. They'll bloom strongest in the spring and then on and off through summer and fall, but love the Russian sage. Great perennial. This is a double Coreopsis, the grandiflora. Coreopsis are great for the butterflies and the bees. So great little perennial, hardy perennial. Stays very low though, 8 to 10 inches. Very small perennial. It's better for borders. But if you ever get tired of replacing a lot of annuals, just fill up your border with more perennials. Do more of the Coreopsis. I'll do more of the Scabiosis. So you can do other plants if you guys get tired of always replacing and changing stuff out. Go with more perennials, you know. This is Aster Monk, and Monk is a good variety. Good to plant them right now. Usually bloom a little in fall, a little bit in spring too. But I like the asters. You do got to watch out on some of the asters because not all of them will grow here because they need a little bit colder chill. You know, that's why they grow them back east and up north a lot. So certain varieties will grow here, but you do got to watch some of them. They lack the cold. So that's pretty much it for the flowers. Okay, now we're starting to get our bulbs in. So all the bulbs that bloom in spring, all these bulbs that bloom in March and April, I'm getting them now. The main thing I always talk about is tulips. So I'm getting a lot of my tulips. This is a parrot type. This is called Bastia, and this is actually another proven winter selection. But the most important thing when you get into tulips and even hyacinths and some of the alliums, you really need to chill them for about 6 weeks in your refrigerator. And I usually put them in a paper bag because these need that cold to really bloom. And sometimes they're more of like a one-shot bloom. They won't really bloom again the following season because we lack that cold because they like it really cold. So tulips, so I got the parrot. The parrot type has the little ruffling on the flower. Got the traditional single. This is Snow White, which is a single later variety. But again, A lot of times what I'll do is with different varieties too, if you want to grow different colors, take a Sharpie, write the name of the variety on the paper bag, put it in the paper bag. I don't like to have the plastic in the fridge because it can rot the bulbs out. So the paper tends to breathe more, so that's important. And you do want to keep it away from some like onions and other vegetable, apples and stuff like that. But yeah, with these two parrot's beak types and the single types, but you do want to chill them for 6 weeks. So then you go into the hyacinths. I'm getting a lot of different varieties of hyacinths, and hyacinths you can force them, you could do a lot of stuff with them, but hyacinths, it really is good where you should chill them for about 6 weeks too. And they're another bulb that doesn't really naturalize in our climate because we don't get cold enough in the wintertime, but you can pre-chill them and then you'll get the show and you'll get the color out of them, and they're usually going to come up sometime in spring, March or April. I like a lot of the bulbs that will come back and naturalize in the garden. I love the daffodils. Daffodils are one of my favorite things. So this is called Dutch Master. So it's a large yellow variety of daffodil and it blooms so good, but these are spring bloomers. But one thing I like about the daffodils is I don't have to chill them. I don't have to do anything with them. I just plant them, and make sure you put them in a lot of sun. You can always throw a couple of them in if you're doing a flower container. You can always put 3 of them in the middle of the flower container and they'll come up. But there's so many varieties. There's the dwarf varieties, there's the taller varieties, a really large family of bulbs, but they'll naturalize in our climate. So you don't have to, they'll just keep flowering. Every year they'll flower. It's good after about the 3rd, 4th season to get in there and to separate them. But yeah, the Dutch Master is a good one. All the daffodils, good. I do like these little tulipas, and tulipas are a little different. They're basically in the family of tulips, and they're very, very small. Like a lot of the tulipas, they're like a species tulip. They don't get tall at all. They'll only get about 4 to 6 inches tall. Now, they stay small, but they don't need chill like the other tulips. And they're good to have. Good to put in mass plantings. There are some nice colors. This is pink. That's a lilac wonder color, they call it, but great for our climate. You get into the giant alliums, and the giant alliums are going to grow right now. They usually will multiply, but sometimes they do a little bit better where the winters are colder. But these are the giant alliums. This is a variety called Globe Master, and they'll get easily about 3 feet or so tall. So all the ornamental alliums are going to start coming in. So tall one. And one of my favorites, I love garlic. Garlic is my favorite. So now's the time to plant garlic. Break up the cloves, and you'll see the little end where the roots, that will always go down, but you break the cloves up, put them in full sun, plant them about 1 inch deep, and put them about 6 inches apart. That's important. With garlic, you just want to make sure the soil drains good and it doesn't stay overly wet because you don't want to rot them out. But garlic does take a long time. It's one of the longer season plants where as a root crop, you plant it right now, and each time it sends up a shoot, it forms another clove. So it takes a long time. You're usually not harvesting garlic until almost May. That's when, and then when it bulbs, then I usually will break the neck and then I'll hang them somewhere and let them cure before I use them, because that way they'll last longer. But there's some really good varieties. There's soft neck types and hard neck types, and a long time ago they always said that hard neck types won't grow here. I've grown them fine here, and so there's some good varieties, but the most important thing is you put them in full sun, you're patient with them, and you don't keep them too wet. Don't rot them out. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the maintenance, and some maintenance for October, and I'm gonna clump it together, and I'm gonna talk about the fertilizers and the sprays that I'm using. So like the first one would be roses. Roses, I'm not gonna trim them back that much right now. I just wanna get them ready more for fall. So we usually will get one good bloom again in fall, and so I'm just light trimming. So January is when I do my major pruning, but even this time of year, I just go through and I'll light trim, and mainly I'm cleaning it up, right? And sometimes even if it has new growth, I'll light trim. I want to get the plant pretty even, and so I'm always cutting down on an outward facing bud that has at least 5 leaves, and then I'll clean it up. If it has any fungal, I could use the sprays on it. But the main thing that I want to do is I just want to clean it up a little bit and get it ready for another bloom. And this looked like it got pretty chewed up, so this had like rose slugs on it, and it got a little bit of rust on it. So rose slugs, I'll use like the Captain Jack's, you know, that's a good insecticide, organic insecticide. For any caterpillars, that's a good one. If they get a lot of mildew and rust, I like the sulfur spray. So the Safer 3-in-1, this is a good one. And so moving into more of the maintenance, what I'm doing, I will fertilize them one last time. I usually don't feed in November. I'm just using the down to earth, and I'll use about a handful or two per plant. So I'm doing that for the roses. I could do a little Epsom salts. If I didn't do Epsom salts last month, I'll do it this month, because again, very important mineral for roses, because it's a source of magnesium. So moving into other stuff, cottonseed meal I'm going to be using for blueberries. This is, and strawberries too, this is one of the best fertilizers for blueberries, because blueberries don't need a lot of nutrients. This is 6% nitrogen, 2 phosphorus, and 1 potassium. It's the acidity. This is really good acidity. So I like that for the blueberries and the strawberries. Citrus, I will feed my citrus one last time. You know, October, this is it. One last time. I don't feed in November, December, and then I start feeding in late January next year. So citrus, oranges, kumquats, you can use this on avocados too. A lot of people don't realize avocados like the same nutrients that citrus do. Sort of like a higher nitrogen, lower phosphorus, and minerals. They're the fruit trees. You can feed them one last time right now, but they're more just all-purpose or the fruit tree food, not really anything in minerals. So I love this fertilizer. This is Bio Live. I use this a lot in my vegetable garden. I use it a lot in my whole garden. I like this because it has more beneficial fungus in it, which is called mycorrhizae. And mycorrhizae really helps sometimes the plants. It helps break things down, and it really does help in the soil, and it's very active in the soil. Sometimes you'll see it and it will look like cobwebbing in the soil, but very effective. So I love the mycorrhizae fertilizers. And then moving on with more maintenance, I talk a little bit about the sprays, and so what I'm doing on the organic side. So again, if the caterpillars are still bad, I like the spinosad. If you're fighting any fungal problems, the Safer 3-in-1, like it because it's a sulfur. Sulfur is a very good fungicide. The soaps work good if you're still fighting. The insecticide soaps work good if you're fighting aphids really bad. I do like, if you have a big garden, I do like the concentrate, the Safer insect soap concentrate. That's a good one. I can put a tablespoon into a quart spray bottle and then fill it up, shake it up, and spray. Very effective for aphids and mites. The Sluggo, I use a Sluggo a lot for snails, for slugs. Very effective. I clean the leaves really good, put it down, and sometimes I'll wet it. This is a natural bait where it doesn't have any methionine. So this is an iron phosphate base. So you could use it on your vegetables, your fruit trees, it's fine. Sluggo Plus is good too. This works better for pill bugs. So if you have a problem with pill bugs in the garden like I do put it down about once a month to control them, because the little sow bugs and the roly-polies, they can really chew up everything in the garden. So yeah, so that's why it's plus is that. The oil sprays, I do like to spray when we're cooler. I don't spray them in summer, but if you have a problem with whitefly or scale, this is a mineral oil spray. You don't want to spray it when it's really hot. So once we start dipping back into the 70s, like under 75, I use it. Anything over 75 in the 80s, don't use it. You could burn leaves. So that's why sometimes I don't use neem oil when it's really hot, because I could burn the leaves on the roses. I could burn my plants up. Some of those other sprays have too high of a residual. This is a good one. Spray it when it's cooler. So that that pretty much is it for the sprays and the maintenance. This is David. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next month.